In your production environment, all operating systems have to be licensed. Whether I'm deploying standard or data center, licensing will depend on the number of cores, not the number of processors that the server actually has. Each Windows server at a minimum must have these requirements. All physical cores must be licensed. You must have 8 core licenses per processor, and there must be 16 core licenses per server. Now that is a minimum. It's a minimum because Microsoft said so. No other reason than that's just their minimum licensing requirement. I also need a CAL, client access licenses, for each user or device that will connect to the server for any purpose. So if I were to have a file server, we'll say it's named File01, and I have, we'll say 100 users total. I need 100 licenses, client access licenses, if I believe these users will be concurrently connected to this server. Now this is concurrent. So if I'm in an environment that works 24/7, so I have, let's say, just for simple math, I have 100 users, first shift, second shift, third shift. You believe at some point all 100 may be connected to that file server. Well, you have 300 users total that will connect to this in a day, possibly. But you only need 100 licenses because it's concurrent connections. So just enough to cover all users on first shift you think would be connected, second shift, third shift. So that's how licensing will work, just based on concurrent connections, and they can be user or device. Now, one thing to consider if you do device, if you have a user that uses multiple devices, each of those devices, if they were to connect concurrently, would require a license. Meaning if I have a laptop and a desktop, and I have both powered up and I happen to browse the same file server, then each device would have to have a license in that instance. Where with a user, it's associated with my user account. So even if I have multiple connections to that, I'm signed in as Kevin, then I would need just one CAL for that because it's my actual user account. So user or device for concurrent connections to the server itself. You can go to the Microsoft site, or you can go to any reseller, like CDW is a big reseller, but there are many. But just in this screenshot here, server 2022 standard, 16 core licenses, we said that's a minimum of requirement. $577.99 US. And some of the facts we talked about. It says you can virtualize by enabling the optional Hyper-V role. So that is included in the server itself. So you can run virtual machines on the server. And it does say it includes 2 virtual machines, minimum of 16 cores required. And we talked about that 2 virtual machines earlier. You can run up to 2 virtual machines, provided the host operating system does nothing but host those virtual machines. You use it for anything else, like a file server or anything like that, and it consumes one of those licenses, and you would only be licensed to run 1 virtual machine. And it also does tell us this does require CALs, which are not included unless stated, and this does not because it's not stated. And as we said on the previous slide, Microsoft requires a minimum 16 cores per server and 8 cores per processor. So if you wanted to purchase this, you could buy this right now, and they'll tell you within 30 minutes. Usually it's instantaneous. You could simply download the ISO file, and it's licensed. Install it, put it in production. You go back to the Microsoft site, and you can purchase your client access licenses, but then you are up and running.